I think the modern mobster probably wants to be a little bit more greener themselves, driving an electric Cadillac.
Oh yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ep20.
Hello, I'm Lucas Finko.
And even though my lips are moving, you can't see that. Regardless, we are, together, the Pirates of Clean Tech. Yar!
Yar, matey.
Yar!
Yar, matey.
You can't use the hat as a thumbnail anymore, man. I just felt like Arthur. I felt like we were Arthur Treacher's commercial or something on LinkedIn. I love the hats, but don't use them for a thumbnail. They scare me.
What? Why not? Well, I had to. It was the first instance.
First time, I'm totally with it, man. But after that, just saying.
All right.
Anyways, we're filming a little later this week just due to work schedules and Lucas getting over a cold. So how you feeling? You doing all right?
No, I have the world's largest sinus infection. It's terrible. So it's not COVID.
Well, that's good. Just be safe. Yeah. And I feel bad because I'm sitting here drinking one of my last of the Hawker Shore Oktoberfest München beers my neighbor gave me. And I don't think you're drinking today.
Yeah, I know. I have some Weyerbacher's in the fridge and they're just calling my name and I just can't drink them. So you suck.
So refreshing.
You suck.
We're the only clean tech professionals that also come with a 12-step program.
Step one is no, not acceptance. Realize you have a problem, right?
Oh, I've got problems, buddy. Well, speaking of problems, I'm still continuing my technical difficulties either with our cable service or with my computer camera. So those watching us on YouTube, I am frozen in I think a very nice look. I'm smiling there. I got a little bit of energy there, which pretty rare for me.
I didn't even notice. I just...
Do you remember the original Conan O'Brien's where he used to do the skit where he had a TV screen with like Bill Clinton's face? Then he had
his lips. Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. Speaking of, we have to do a shout out to Conan O'Brien. He announced yesterday that he's ending his show in June, ending a 28-year career of late night TV. And he's one of my all-time favorites. And he's going to move to HBO Max to do a weekly variety show, which should be great.
Oh, really?
And he's going to continue his travel episodes as specials on TBS. So, but he was an inspiration to me. I think he's that fantastic Gen X humor that I always appreciated. So I wish him and his loved ones well in their next steps.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. You know, he's not hurting for money. Let's put it that way.
Didn't he start his own channel or something because he got booted off the majors? I can't remember that whole saga.
He started a thing called Team Coco. Yeah. So like he has his own YouTube channel and stuff, but yeah, TBS picked him up a few years ago. He's been great.
Right. Okay. Okay.
All right. Should we get to articles? Between your illness and my technical difficulties, we should probably get right into it, right?
Yeah, let's get into it. There was a lot of news in the last week, it seems like, clearing out after the election, you know?
There is. And so what we're going to do today, folks, since we don't have a guest and we have a lot to cover, we're going to go in depth on a couple stories each. But then we're going to go to a new format called the lightning round, which I don't know if we'll do this every week, but we're just going to rattle off some headlines and some articles to give you a taste of things that have popped over the last week or a couple weeks that I thought were intriguing, that Lucas thinks are intriguing, but we're not going to deep dive on those. It's just a way for us to kind of make sure our listening audience is updated, and anything that maybe piques their curiosity, you can follow up yourself. So something new and innovative.
Yeah, I had like 10 articles I wanted to cover, and there was no way I was going to talk about 10 articles. So we're just going to crank them out.
Yeah, I'd probably just turn off my monitor and leave and not come back.
All right, the clock is ticking.
Utility dive. I'm poaching from Lucas his favorite media venue. I'm stealing one from him, but I really saw this article and just goes along with our trend of what we're always talking about, and that is green hydrogen. So this article is called Hydrogen is Having a Moment and Power Generation is Leading the Way. Subtitle, Green Hydrogen Fuel Could Facilitate Decarbonization Across a Wide Swath of Industries but experts say utility sector will be the first to transition. And scroll down because I'm thinking, I can't remember what date this was. This article is from November 2nd, so the day before the election, and it's from Emma Penrod in Utility Dive. Really nice story, deep dive here. What this story talks about is really what confirms what we had questioned a week or two ago. And that was simply, can green hydrogen really bolt into the natural gas infrastructure for power generation? And according to this article, the answer is yes, and that benefits all of us. So in 2020, there's a little comment here in the first paragraph. GE and Siemens are looking at hydrogen as this like second chance to really advance their green energy agendas, where they may have missed the first wave of renewable technology. And when you talk about the fact that we have talked about that Europe is so much far ahead of North America on hydrogen, we're starting to see it here. There's an initiative in place that European countries will have 20% of their gas-fired power generation come from a green hydrogen natural gas mix. So we're talking 20% hydrogen content. Of course, the Germans being the Germans and being, very, very assertive about trying to grow their renewable agenda, they're actually saying it could be up to 60%. And so what's really good about this is this article just really dives into the fact that this could be something that could be implemented quickly because you're not really replacing or completely reconstructing infrastructure for gas transmission and gas-fired power plants. You're adding to it. So it's just like putting an additive in the gas. This can come from green sources because the power generation to make that hydrogen could be green in itself. And it seems like that this is a solution that people are going to be talking about. I think we do have to worry a little bit about the fact that it's going to be easy for a lot of people to say that they're going to do green hydrogen. But if the power generation to make that green hydrogen is not green in itself, then we're talking about, blue or gray hydrogen, whatever the category they want to discuss. Yeah. So that's something we have to be careful. They don't really talk about it here. But I'm going to give hats off to, they talk about a power plant being constructed in the Appalachia region in Ohio, right in the middle of the Marcellus Utica Shale. And that's the Ohio Long Ridge Energy Terminal. And they're quoting their president of Long Ridge, a gentleman named Bo Woolley, who I've interacted with in the past from his private equity days. Really happy to see this, that Long Ridge is actually considering being 100% hydrogen burner at one point in the future. I think that really sets up that region very well in case fracking doesn't come to fruition, as it seems to have tapered off a little bit in the Marcellus Utica. Great story. I like it. Again, I feel good because I think, Lucas, you and I have been ahead of the curve in questioning whether or not green hydrogen can easily tap into power infrastructure. And this is the first article confirming that. So what do you think?
Yeah, this is great. This is exactly what we've been wanting to see, right? I think last week we talked about maybe 5% hydrogen could just be slipped into the natural gas supply with nobody even noticing. And now it looks like, this guy learned that GE's new gas turbine could also burn up to 20% hydrogen without modification. So this is a drop-in replacement. We can worry about whether it's renewable or not later, and we can work on that and make it as renewable as possible over time. And we have 20, 30 years to do that. So that the technology is there to drop in hydrogen as a like-for-like replacement with natural gas is awesome news. I'm really excited by this.
Yeah, it's fascinating. This reminds me of, if you remember in the late 1990s, early 2000s, you used to see cars that had the letters FFV on them for flex fuel vehicle. Right. And that was like gas lines that were purposely built in order for them to take an ethanol content, because ethanol has some corrosive qualities, so the fuel lines had to be made specially different. Right. And so that was called a flex fuel vehicle. And this kind of reminds me of that as well. So obviously 20% can get you into natural gas burning infrastructure with no problem for hydrogen. But anything more than that, you're probably going to have to make CapEx modifications, which can come over time, but at least we can start slipping it in now. So great story, right?
I love this too. We have corporates and investors saying, I'm no longer investing in fossil fuels, period. It doesn't matter who is in office.
Yes.
Said it better.
Yes. Mitsubishi Power too, which I used to work for a bank that had the word Mitsubishi in the title. So happy to see that.
Big connection there. All right.
So great story. So that's my first of my big ones.
Okay.
Second one is from the Financial Times. Again, my favorite newspaper going back ages and ages. I started reading it in college per the advice of one of my economic professors. So this is, they did a report last week, special report on energy efficiency. And I love this story because it's talking about something we never talk about. Cracks in cement industry's CO2 response. The producers are moving too slowly in adoption of greener methods. And I think this comes from, go back, if you can go down a little bit, Michael Pooler on November 10th, so about a week old. You know, the stat here that blows my mind away, and if you have one takeaway from our podcast this week, if cement manufacturing was its own country, cement would be the third largest CO2 emitter in the world after China and the United States. I mean, think about that. First off, nobody wants to live in a country called cement, so that's kind of bad. After that, I mean, that's just really a mind-blowing statistic. The process, the burning, the kilns that use the kiln process, if you will, to heat and create cement has a lot of fossil fuel emissions. Thankfully, there's a good news and bad news organically over time. Since 1990, there's a great stat here. The percentage of CO2 gas per ton of output has fallen by 18% since 1990. That's great. That's showing that, you know, energy, there's some efficiency that's being generated by better processes and technology. However, because of global growth, especially in China on, you know, infrastructure building, the gross emissions increased by roughly half over the same period. So, you know, it's great that there's more efficiency. It's just like similar to, again, going back to a car analogy, you know, cars may be 15% more fuel efficient, but if you're doubling the amount of cars on the road over the next 10 years, your gross, you know, your net gain is not going to be very strong. So there's some technologies being talked about in this article. A French company is being, I think, called Hoffman Green Cement Technologies, founded in 2014, has a completely novel manufacturing process that can cut CO2 emissions by 4/5, 80%, over the traditional Portland cement methodology. So this one is almost like kind of a cold mix, if you will. So it would actually use byproducts from other manufacturing processes, I believe from like steel and others. I think that's great, but that sounds like it's still pretty far off. So the article, you know, the things that I would want people to kind of have as a takeaway, we really need to keep focusing on incremental energy efficiency improvements. I remember working on a project in the venture capital space a few years ago that, you know, a company was going to use waste pellets generated from waste product in order to burn those. So there would be a little bit of a net efficiency. And I know some of the cement manufacturers on the West Coast were very interested in that. Not sure what happened with that, but regardless, you know, this is an opportunity for us to start thinking seriously about creating energy efficiency. It's one of the non-sexy areas of fossil fuel generation. Nobody's talking about it. So this is something we need to talk a little bit more about. Great article. I think it wakes everybody up that we have to start looking at these other industries besides just power generation that really impact fossil fuel and emissions.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great way to get a big chunk of CO2 out of the atmosphere, and doesn't cost any jobs, doesn't hinder any economic growth. You can still build buildings and highways and bridges. So this is great. This is great to see. I've known about this for quite a while, and I'd like to see more of this. So this is great.
Yeah, you know, the article goes in as talks about carbon capture, you know, technology being used in the process that can help, you know, kind of be a bolt-on solution to existing manufacturing using kiln process, et cetera. So there are solutions, but there's some kind of big picture statements here that, you know, if cement mixers don't get their act together, our 2050 goals may not hit. We may not be able to get to, you know, emission reductions enough to keep 2050 2 degrees centigrade temperature increase from happening. So this is incredibly important. So for all of us in the clean tech space, please keep an eye on what's happening in the cement industry. When you talk to legislators and regulators, make this a priority because this is something very, very interesting.
Yeah, you know, they say necessity is the mother of all invention. So if you have a problem, you tell people about it, and then people figure out solutions to it. And this is exactly what this is about. And that's what makes you know, the human race so great, that we can solve problems and we can fix things. So let's do that.
You know, I listened to something really funny on NPR yesterday, where NPR was talking about, it was the lemon grove industry in Sicily that started the roots of the Italian mafia. And if you think about it, I grew up in a mafia town in Ohio. And if you think about the mafia, right, they used to drive big Cadillacs and Lincolns that probably got horrible gas mileage. and they use cement shoes to bury their victims in the East River. And so like think about their impact on emissions. I think the modern mobster probably wants to be a little bit more greener themselves, driving an electric Cadillac.
Oh yeah,
want to use cement that was made from an efficient green process.
you can go tell them. I'm not going to tell them.
I'll get on the phone right now. So I do have 5 more articles, and before you get terrified by that, this is our new lightning round, where we're just going to talk about some headlines. We're not even going to post the stories on our video side of our podcast, but just a couple things that caught our eye. So I have 5 that I want to go with. I'm going to go in order of least controversial to most controversial. Number 1, New York to use $11 million of the VW settlement funds to expand DC fast charging. That was out of chargedevs.com from 11/18. This is something we've been following for a while with some of our other friends. The VW Dieselgate emissions scandal money is finally making its way through states, and they're using it for EV infrastructure, particularly DC fast charging, which will be a game changer for people adopting so that's fantastic. So I'm getting the spool from Lucas. I better move faster. Number 4, Motley Fool from a couple days ago. They just had, great story. Fuel Cell Energy, Lordstown Motors, and Nikola were kind of leading, if you will, some of the growth in NASDAQ stocks over the last couple of days. NASDAQ has been flat itself, but you're looking at hydrogen fuel cell, you're looking at hydrogen vehicles and electric pickup trucks. That's fantastic. Lordstown Motor Corporation announced that they're going to do an R&D center in Farmington Hills and add a 700,000 square foot battery pack facility to the old former GM Lordstown plant. So hats off to Lordstown Motors for keeping the right thing going. One quick article from, I don't even have the source here, but there was a recent report by a green consultancy called ERM that private equity funds are looking for more and more value creation. 86% of private equity firms surveyed believe that clean energy and sustainability and ESG related opportunities are going to be prevalent in the coming years, but only 25% of private equity firms right now really have a comprehensive ESG strategy they're executing on. So there's a lot of growth there. And then finally, my last article, this is from a site called openaccess.org, and this is the controversial one. But it was a great article that was very thought-provoking, talking about the association between contraception and climate change. And what it comes down to is a statistic that they used, and they didn't have a source for it.
Oh my God.
44%, get ready for this, 44% of all pregnancies globally are generally unwanted pregnancies or ones that were not planned. 44%.
Ooh.
They didn't source it, so we have to take it with a grain of salt.
That means 44% of us walking around, that's what I'm saying.
Well, hey, happy to have those 44% of the people around. But,
welcome.
But I think what it is saying is that if people did have greater access to contraception and people had that choice to make, then your carbon footprint as a country or a society globally would be a little bit more constrained, and it would give us to have the capability of interacting with our environment slightly better, or at least in a more strategically planned process. It also referenced an article that I think we've talked about where, 3 European scientists several years ago talked about the fact that there's going to be more coronaviruses leading to global epidemics and pandemics because of the fact that the deforestation that's taking place in Asia is causing intermingling between humans and bats and other animals. So again, it's that deforestation is coming from population growth that is rampant, and having access to contraception from people who want to use contraception can actually mitigate some of the fast growth effects of population growth. So I'm getting the spool, man. This is important. But anyways, this is one of my lightning rounds. I thought those were really interesting. Feel free to comment. We're not posting those stories. Lucas, on to you.
I just have one article I wanted to go in depth on this week, and this was a report out from Deloitte. It seems they listened to our podcast, it seems, and they heard about our net zero criticism from the utilities. So they decided to do a study to look into this and see how the utilities are doing on their goals to get to zero and see how far they are and what they need to do. So they have this great article. I believe it's based on this study, which you probably can get if you give them your email or whatever. Utility decarbonization strategies: renew, reshape, and refuel to zero. So the power, utilities, and renewable sector is the focus of this transition. As decarbonization will enable the decarbonization of other sectors that are just electrifying to get away from using carbon. So they really wanted to look at, all these utilities are now saying they want to go zero or net zero, which we discussed last week. And then they took like what their current projections are for transitioning, and they wanted to see what the gap is. And so you kind of have to go to Deloitte's website and look at this, because the gap is huge, right? And so they have a couple of graphs here that show just how huge we're looking at here. And renewables really have to grow an insane amount above kind of the current baseline. So that's the TLDR here. There's a big gap here that is projected that needs to be filled. And you notice that, it's not just electric power we have to fill. It's also transportation. If we go EVs, it's also industrial. People like cement companies are burning it in the facility. Residential, people burn it in their homes, and commercial, they build it they burn it in their office buildings. So there's a lot of great observations in here. They look at different companies and what their emissions are, so you can and they also have ideas for how to do this, right? So renew your supply and reshape your demand and refuel end uses. So these are things which we've been talking about, right? Replace oil and transportation, avoid peakers for use demand response, use energy efficiency to reshape demand, switch to solar, wind paired with energy storage and a flexible grid. So it's not just a complaint. They also have some guidelines in here. Here's some technologies that can help close this carbonization gaps. So it's a great read if you want more details. Here's some cost effectiveness of different technologies. Obviously, EE is the low-hanging fruit, if we didn't know that already. Utility PV is cost effective now. Onshore wind is cost effective. Solar plus storage is starting to get there. Demand response, I don't know if I agree with it. It depends. It can be cost effective depending on how you do the analysis. So really like to see some of these things move up, like RNG needs to get better. Pumped hydro, this is interesting. I didn't think it was that expensive. Offshore wind should be close. I think we need some efficiencies of scale there. Carbon capture, I thought, would be much lower than this, which is odd. So obviously battery storage, energy storage, we need to see improve. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. I mean, the gap is just huge. And so, yeah, we have a long ways to go. So very interesting article. I definitely suggest, if you're interested, to check it out.
Yeah, love this. This is the kind of deep dive stuff that we need to see more of. I love the relative value analysis, right? Because we've talked about, like you said, a bunch of times. We need to start sorting through how we're going to spend our precious resources. And a Biden administration, right, wants to just write big checks, which is great. But I think we got to be smart about those big checks for someone who also believes in efficient government. So great article. This is one that I'm going to reread over the weekend when I have just a little bit more time with a good morning coffee. But let's keep focusing on relative value. And, coming from the finance side of things, this is really helpful for all the financial institutions that are looking at green initiatives, because we're holding the purse strings and we have to start deploying capital smartly, not just, throwing it out there. So great story for your lead story. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I feel like, the policymakers have done their job. They set the goals, they set the targets. Now the engineers and the planners and the forecasters have to get to work, right? We got to make this happen, and the financiers have to make it work. So, okay, good kind of roadmap blueprint article to help us get there. Okay, so my lightning round. This is going to be fun. I have about 10 of these. I'm going to crank through them real quick, right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing this to put the pressure on you too.
Well, I thought about having a timer. We need a timer. All right, here we go.
That's not a bad idea.
Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia partnering on offshore wind energy development. I thought this was hilarious because we've been talking about how New Jersey was going to dominate the East. And then New York shunned them, and now everybody else is shunning them. This is in the Hill. I thought that was hilarious, so I had to bring that up.
That takes like 5 states to take on New York, by the way, just for the
Yeah. E&E News had a great one. First offshore wind farm goes offline. So there was an issue with the Block Island wind farm. They had to shut off some of their turbines. Some of the seabed has worn away. So I thought that was interesting. There's, we're going to start learning a lot of things about offshore wind. So I thought this was interesting. It's not simple and easy. This one was from Madison.com. So I had to have this because I'm from Wisconsin. It's from the Wisconsin State Journal. We Energies is going to retire 1.8 gigawatts of fossil fuel. That's massive. So that's an Indian Point. That's a large nuclear equivalent. And they're going to add solar, wind, and battery storage to offset that. So this was great. This is articles I want to see more of. There's quite a few utility dives in here. So here's one from Utility Dive. Could COVID provide a windfall to utilities from shifting demand? Report says yes, but it's complicated. So the TLDR, people were saying, oh, everybody's going home. They're working from home. They're using all their energy at home, and utilities get a better rate at home. So utilities are making out like bandits, and it's monopoly beating up on the little guy. And it turns out that, yeah, the details are true, but it ends up just being not that much money. And yet again, the utilities are well regulated, and they're just not making away with a huge windfall.
Yeah, and look, going forward, it's going to be a mix of people at home and in the office, right? So it's going to return to a little bit more of the traditional model.
Well, rates tend to balance out over a long time anyhow, so it's not like they're getting a giant pile of money. So moving over to Green Tech Media, we do have clean tech in our name. So a South Korean firm is touting a novel vertical axis wind turbine tower concept. I thought this was really cool. I think the innovation here is the housing that kind of steers the wind into the vertical turbine. So this is great. They said they can have up to 12 floors. They can put it in places where they couldn't before to generate wind. So this was really cool tech I wanted to share with you guys. Another from Utility Dive. This makes me really happy. Mopar reconsidered. So this is interesting. Competitive generators are moving away from FERC's PJM order. They're the ones that wanted it. And now they're finding out that they don't really need it. They want to move towards more market-based mechanisms like carbon pricing. So this is great. We saw FERC trying to beat up on clean energy, and it didn't work in many ways. So I had to bring that up.
Is this Mopar? Why does the Dodge auto supplier Mopar have anything to do with this?
Oh, whatever. It's minimum offer price rule. Get out of here.
Pum.
Another one from Utility Dive. This is a little upsetting to me personally. PECO, that's Pennsylvania electric company. Billions of investment at risk with Pennsylvania court rejection of smart meter mandate. So Pennsylvania was one of the first to push through a smart meter mandate for everyone. Everyone gets a smart meter. I thought it was a little heavy-handed because some people don't want it because it has a cell transmitter attached to it, and they don't want the radiation in their home or whatever. Fine, who cares? I mean, I don't think it's going to be a huge impact. I think less than 5% of people said they didn't want it. So it's not a big deal.
Aren't the meters outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. Let's go, folks.
There you go. This one from Reuters. U.S. agency again delays key permit for first major U.S. offshore wind farm. So you got to dig in here to find out what part of the administration it was here. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which I didn't even know existed, just pushed the approval for the next wind farm, the Vineyard Wind Project off of Massachusetts. But it's only pushed like, a month. So nothing to freak out about right now. Let's see, another from Utility Dive. Trump administration issues strategic framework to direct federal hydrogen research. So I think he's a little concerned that he only has so many days to get work done. So we're seeing a big scramble of work in DC. And he actually wants to push through a federal hydrogen research framework. So this is great. Really happy to see this get pushed through.
Yeah, we may focus on this one next week because I saw the same article, same headline, and I want to see like what the transition on this is going to be. With this will be very important, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. This was interesting too. I don't even know who this guy is. Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, ranking member, says he's optimistic on prospect for passing major clean energy bill in lame duck Congress. That would be interesting. Again, this is what I'm talking about, that scramble in the
Joe
last.
Manchin's an important guy because he's in West Virginia. He's a D, but that's a conservative state getting hit by the coal industry. He's trying to steer clean tech investment into West Virginia, which I 100% agree with. Let's go in the areas that will be impacted from switching from fossil fuels to renewables, and let's give them job and opportunity. So, yeah, I'm a fan of Manchin on this one.
Yeah, let's do it. It says a companion bill already passed the House. So we're just waiting on the Senate. So that's good. Very happy to see that. Last one, carbuzz.com. Ford realizes Tesla's battery plant is the way to go. So how many years has it been for the auto industry to finally figure out what Tesla's doing? They're finally figuring out that Tesla's got it right and that they need to copy Tesla and develop their own batteries in-house, because that's the key tech for the EV future. So welcome, Ford. We welcome you with open arms.
I agree with that, but the other OEMs have figured it out, right? Because as I said, one thing surprising is most of the OEMs, that Mustang is hot. That EV,
isn't it?
Most of the OEMs actually own the battery chemistry, even if a third-party producer like an LG makes the battery. GM has gotten it for a long time, so happy to see Ford come on board. I hate the dashboard though.
What? I would buy one of these. And
no, I hate that center console thing. I don't need a big iPad in the middle of my environment.
Well, that's a little too much copying of Tesla, yeah. But and there's that little electric get around. I want to see my Amazon package come from one of those. That's what I'm talking about.
It's gonna happen. It's absolutely.
They can come up and charge at my house if they want for free. I don't care.
Yeah, I want to see a big old Lincoln Town car that's electric, right? So, and then the mafia can feel better about things.
You make the call. I'm not making the call.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to work on a thumbnail for this week's episode already. I'm thinking about the Greenfather.
Oh Lord.
The Godfather Part 4, cement shoes.
All right. I guess so.
All right. Anyways, that was great. I think doing this lightning round is, maybe we won't do it every week, but I think in certain weeks we will do it, because we want to educate readers about what's going on. We're trying to make your time as efficient as possible. So, we'll scroll the headlines when you can't.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. It was just too much good news.
Too much good news. I think the world has changed since, sorry, I'm getting political here, but the world has changed since November 3rd. And
I don't doubt it.
There's a sense of optimism associated with it. So, but even like you said, the Trump administration is thinking about a green hydrogen plan. So kudos to the Trump administration.
Well, they must be listening to our podcast, because, we said it was a bipartisan issue. Everybody wants it.
So maybe we're going to be known as the bipartisan pirates of clean tech.
See, if he had done that a couple months ago, maybe he would have got real. Oh, sorry.
Don't go there. Don't go there. Well, Giuliani did do his press conference from Four Seasons Landscaping. So he is talking about, plant and tree growth in America indirectly.
Indirectly. That's right. See, it's the new black.
It's the new black. I like that. Since my internet working, it was great. Although I had to, since it's lunchtime, I have to drink my Propel water instead of a beer. But it was another good episode. We're going to do a quick one before the Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you for listening. I'll do the quick disclaimer, and then Lucas can go into our website, a little bit more information. But views and opinions expressed by Lucas and I are those of Lucas and I solely, and not any organization that we are affiliated with.
Yeah, and you can always subscribe to our YouTube and click the little alarm bell that gives you notifications so you can be the first to know when we post. And we're also on your favorite podcast site and your podcast app. So just search for Pirates of Clean Tech and click follow. And then, you'll be the first to know when it gets posted. So,
yeah, thank you, everybody. We have a growth in subscribers on both our podcasting and our YouTube channel. So keep it up. We'll keep bringing the good news to you guys. And please feel free to comment, send us questions either individually or on our YouTube page.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good episode. Lucas, hope you feel better.
Thanks. I hope I feel better too.
Yeah, and look, everybody out there, have a safe Thanksgiving. It's a different Thanksgiving. Please be careful. We really have to address flattening the curve as best as possible. The vaccines are coming, but they're not going to come soon enough, unfortunately. So please be safe until then.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm Eric Planey.
I'm Lucas Finko.
We are the Pirates of Clean Tech.
Arr,
The Mafia Pirates of Clean Tech.
arr. I don't know
Music
how to do
this week.
How do I do a mafia pirate?